Brace yourselves because the Liverpool manager has just made the most embarrassing mistake of the season, and Eddie Howe has just delivered the perfect response that's going to shut a lot of people up. But hold on, there's so much more happening at St. James Park that you need to know right now. Alright everyone, how's it going? I'm Rodrigo, and you're watching Newcastle Mania, the channel made by a supporter for supporters who are absolutely mad about Newcastle United. Look, you blinked and Newcastle have become headline news absolutely everywhere. We've got a player bagging a brace in the Champions League, an ex-player being absolutely slaughtered in the press, and a controversy that's got the Magpies faithful in absolute stitches. And the third story, mate, this one's jaw-dropping. But before we dive into all these stories, just a quick word. If you love Newcastle and want to keep up with everything happening at our club, subscribe to the channel right now. It costs nothing, helps massively, and makes all the difference to the growth of our black and white community. Hit that red button down below and turn on the notifications. Right then, let's get into the news. Our News 1, Harvey Barnes and the Squad Challenge. Starting with the first bombshell of the day, Harvey Barnes has just thrown a truth bomb at the entire Newcastle squad, and honestly, is absolutely spot on. Let me tell you what happened. Last Tuesday night, Newcastle absolutely battered Benfica 3-0 in the Champions League. It was spectacular. And who shone? Our lad Harvey Barnes, who came off the bench and smashed in 2 brilliant goals late in the match. Simply sensational. But here's where it gets interesting. After the match, Barnes gave an interview to NUFC TV and came out with a line that caught everyone by surprise. He said, and pay attention to this, we've been a bit guilty this year of not going on to get the second and third goals and kill games off. Mate, do you understand what that means? The player himself is admitting the team aren't finishing the job properly. And look, he's got a point. Let's look at the numbers. In the Premier League, Newcastle have scored just 7 goals in 8 matches. 7 goals in 8 games. For a side with the quality we've got, that's simply unacceptable. Barnes continued and said something even more important. As an attacking player coming on from the bench, it's important to help the team push forward, go and get the next goals. We probably haven't hit our heights this season with that free-flowing football, scoring goals, creating chances. And look how honest he was. He admitted the team aren't playing that beautiful, offensive, exciting football we saw last season. You know those matches where Newcastle would just steamroll the opposition with high pressing and goals coming from everywhere? Well, that team's gone missing. But there is a positive side to all this. Barnes said that when it clicks, like it did against Benfica, the team really does work brilliantly. They score goals, create loads of chances. It's that Newcastle we love to watch. The problem is doing it consistently. Now here's the bit that left Eddie Howe scratching his head. The manager admitted after the Benfica match that is baffled by this brutal difference in performance. In the Champions League, it's back-to-back 3-0 victories, with the team playing lovely football and scoring goals. In the Premier League, it's a struggle to score a single goal. Howe said word for word, that's a head-scratcher for me as well because we know their qualities, we know they're goal scorers, we know how good of players they are. Everyone has pointed to the fact that we haven't been scoring enough in the Premier League. But when you see us play like we did against Benfica and how we attacked and the amount of chances we created, that's a difficult one for us to work out. And the manager went even deeper. He put the responsibility on everyone. Said the wingers need to do more, the creative midfielders need to do more, the fullbacks need to do more. Nobody escapes. Howe was clear. There is an onus and a responsibility on the attacking players to contribute, but sometimes the problem doesn't always exist with what you're directly looking at, and there's another reason behind it. It's about giving everyone accountability within the team, myself included, to find a solution. Look how interesting that is. The manager himself is putting himself as part of the problem. That's proper leadership, that is. He's not just throwing the blame on the players. He's accepting he needs to find tactical solutions as well. Barnes' challenge to his teammates was simple and direct. We need to kill games off. We need to be more clinical. We need to get back to playing that football we know works. And honestly, he's absolutely right. Because if Newcastle want to compete for trophies and Champions League qualification every year, you can't just rely on sporadic brilliance. You've got to have consistency. On News 2, Alexander Isak getting destroyed. Now let's move on to the second story, and this one will have any Newcastle supporter grinning from ear to ear. Remember Alexander Isak? That player who refused to train with Newcastle, who went on strike to force his exit, who caused all that drama in the summer. Well, he's having a proper mare at Liverpool. And the best bit, people are absolutely destroying him in the English press. Let me tell you what's happening. Since he transferred to Liverpool for a staggering £130 million, Isaac has been a complete disaster. In 8 matches, he's scored just one goal, and that was in the League Cup, not even in the Premier League. The situation got even worse last night. Liverpool were battering Eintracht Frankfurt 5-1 in the Champions League, and Isaac had to come off at halftime with a groin injury. Meanwhile, Hugo Ekitike, another expensive Liverpool signing, was shining and banging in goals. And then Jamie O'Hara entered the scene, former Tottenham player who now works as a pundit for Sky Sports. And mate, he showed no mercy to Isaac. Absolutely massacred the Swede live on television. O'Hara started by questioning Isaac's professionalism. My argument to this is, what has Alexander Isak been doing? What's he doing? He was in limbo, but, come on, keep yourself fit. You know you're going to move. And he continued, they've tried to wrap him up in cotton wool and drip feed him into the team. He's a professional athlete. I know you didn't want to be involved at Newcastle, but keep yourself fit. How unfit are you? Mate, that was brutal. O'Hara's basically saying Isaac arrived at Liverpool out of shape because he didn't look after himself properly during all that transfer saga. And look, he's got a point. If you're a professional athlete earning millions, you've got an obligation to be ready to play. But O'Hara didn't stop there. He went even harder. Give me 3 games and I'm fit. 3 or 4 games in pre-season and you're ready to go. How unfit can he be? It's been 3 months. And then comes the most controversial bit. O'Hara said Liverpool play better without Isaac. That's right, you heard it. He said, they're trying to get him up to speed, but come on, he's miles off it. He doesn't look sharp. Isaac looks like he's going to pull his hamstring every time he opens up. I wouldn't start him anyway, even if he were fit. Blimey, imagine being a £130 million player and having a former player go on national television saying the team plays better without you. That's humiliating. And there's more. Arne Slot, the Liverpool manager, gave an interview after the match where he sort of threw the blame on Newcastle for Isaac's fitness. He said, let's hope it's not that bad, but he had to go off because he felt his groin. That is a pity, but, I said many times, it's such a difficult balance to find with a player like this who missed 3 months. Slot continued, when he came to the club, he had hardly trained. So you bring him step by step forward and then you feel there must be a moment where he can play twice a week, and the first time we try, he did it with Sweden as well. He has to go off. But here's the problem with that argument. Isaac himself refused to train with Newcastle. He went on strike. So how is the Liverpool manager going to throw blame at the club when it was the player himself who created this whole situation? The irony of all this is absolutely delicious for us Newcastle supporters. The bloke forced his exit, caused massive problems at the club, was sold for a fortune, and now he's playing poorly, getting injured, and being slaughtered in the press. Meanwhile, Newcastle are flying in the Champions League and moving forward just fine without him. News 3. Eddie Howe responds to Arne Slot. And now we've arrived at the main story, the one I promised you at the start of the video. And mate, this one will have any Newcastle supporter jumping off the sofa and cheering. Remember I just told you about Arne Slot making excuses for Isaac's poor performance? Well, he went way beyond that. Slot had the audacity to call Newcastle a smaller club compared to Liverpool. That's right, you heard it. A smaller club. Let me explain exactly what he said, because you need to hear this to believe it. When asked about Isaac's fitness and preparation, Slot responded, you cannot compare, maybe a player who hasn't trained or played in pre-season at a smaller club than if you go to Liverpool. A smaller club. He called Newcastle, one of the most traditional clubs in England, with one of the most passionate fan bases in the world, a smaller club. And look, the press went after Eddie Howe to see how he was going to react to this. Everyone wanted to see the Newcastle manager respond, defend the club, get into this war of words with Slot. And you know what Eddie Howe did? He gave the most classy, most elegant, most devastating response possible. When asked about Slot's comments, Howe simply said, I don't think it is wise for me to get involved in those discussions. Alex is no longer at this football club. It is best to stay away from it. Boom. MIC drop. Discussion over. See the brilliance of that response. Howe didn't take the bait, didn't stoop to Slot's level, didn't get defensive about the size of the club. He simply said Isaac isn't Newcastle's problem anymore, and moved on. It's like saying, that's your problem now, not ours. But the best part, when a journalist from Chronicle Live asked specifically about the club's facilities, trying to give Howe an opportunity to defend Newcastle, he responded with pure class. Howe said, the setup here is very good. It is not perfect, there are things to improve and grow. The owners here have developed the facilities and you can see there is building work going on. Hopefully that will help us be even better in the future. But I have no complaints, we have elite athletes here, many of them. Touch wood, they are managing pretty well. Look at the elegance of that. He didn't start boasting, didn't start saying Newcastle are better than Liverpool, didn't get into that silly argument. Simply stated the truth, the facilities are good, the players are well looked after, and that's that. And when asked to defend the size of the club following Slot's comments, Howe was direct, I don't feel I have to do that. And you know why? Because he doesn't need to. The facts speak for themselves. Let's look at the facts here, right? Newcastle have just battered Benfica 3-0 in the Champions League. They are sitting in 7th place in Europe's most prestigious competition. They beat Liverpool 2-1 in the League Cup final this very season. So when the Liverpool manager comes out talking about a smaller club, the most devastating response isn't to argue and debate. It's simply to point at the results and say, the numbers speak for themselves. And there's another important detail here. This whole situation with Isaac shows something much bigger about the difference between how Newcastle and Liverpool are handling things. Isaac refused to train with Newcastle, caused all that chaos, and even so the club remained professional, sold him for a good price, and moved forward. Didn't cry about it, didn't complain, didn't make a drama out of it. Meanwhile, the Liverpool manager is making public excuses, calling other clubs smaller, trying to justify why a £130 million player isn't performing. Who looks more professional in this story? Eddie Howe's attitude in this situation shows exactly why he's the right man to lead Newcastle. He's got class, he's got dignity, and he knows when a situation doesn't deserve his attention. He understands that the best response to provocation is simply to win matches and let the work speak for itself. And look, the Newcastle faithful are absolutely loving this whole situation. On social media, the Magpies are laughing at Slot, remembering that League Cup final victory, sharing the highlights from the Benfica match, and basically showing they don't need to prove anything to anyone. Because at the end of the day, who's laughing last? Us. Newcastle are flying in the Champions League, have got a committed squad, have got a manager who knows what he's doing, and have got owners building something special. Meanwhile, Liverpool paid £130 million for a player who's getting injured, playing poorly, and being criticised by everyone. And their manager, instead of focusing on solving the problem, is out there making excuses and calling other clubs smaller. So when you see Arne Slot talking about a smaller club, remember this, a smaller club is one that needs to keep making excuses. A big club is one that lets the work speak for itself. And the way things are going, everyone knows who's who in this story. So then, what did you think of these 3 Newcastle bombshells? Harvey Barnes giving the squad a proper talking to, Isaac getting absolutely slaughtered in the English press, and Eddie Howe giving a masterclass in how to respond to Arne Slot. This is the type of content that shows Newcastle aren't messing about. We've got players who aren't afraid to hold each other accountable, ex-players who are paying the price for their decisions, and a manager who knows exactly how to handle provocation. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave your like down below. It helps the channel massively to grow and reach more Newcastle supporters around the world. If you're not already subscribed, hit that red button now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any hot off the press news about our club. And tell me in the comments, which of these 3 stories surprised you most? Do you agree with Harvey Barnes that the team needs to kill games off better? Are you enjoying seeing Isaac struggle at Liverpool? And what did you think of Eddie Howe's response to Slot? Leave your opinion down below because I read every single comment. Share this video with that mate of yours who's also a Magpie and needs to know everything that's going on. And if you know any Liverpool supporters, send it to them as well just to see their reaction. Cheers for sticking with me until the end. I'm Rodrigo, this has been Newcastle Mania, and I'll see you in the next video with more news about our beloved Newcastle United. Howe the lads. See you next time.